have been rereading the essay by Shoshana Zuboff. I read it first time in college. It's called A Digital Declaration, Big Data as Surveillance Capitalism. She first wrote it in 2014. And I read this when I was in college. I think I was a freshman or a sophomore in college. And I mean, I read it and I was like, damn. I read it like maybe 2 years after an article that I read called Is Google Making Us Stupid? Deeply had strong feelings about that article. And then I read Shoshana Zuboff, who's a professor at Harvard. And I was like, and I didn't think about it for years until I had a free trial with Rocket Money. It's all gonna make sense in a minute. I just think about surveillance capitalism a lot, especially as we are giving away our financial records, our data, everything is being extracted in some way. So normalized that like you hear people saying like, oh my gosh, I got this ad while I was talking to my friends. The way that we have all these big ass data miners like Alexa and Google Home, Nest, all of these things in our homes very easily. Technology is so ambient in our homes and in our environment that surveillance capitalism has made it easier. One of the things that Shoshana talks about is that if surveillance capitalism is happening really well, more injustices are going to happen, but also it's going to take in the form of like more data extraction. There's going to be more automation, and then there's going to be continual experimentation. We're going to be like essentially guinea pigs for these technology companies that are more and more private companies that are going to experiment on us how to sell more stuff for us. It's like, that's what it is. The point is like the bottom line, right? If you are someone who have Rocket Money or similar apps, here's my case to delete it. I don't think Rocket Money was a thing in 2014. Rocket Money's strong suit is automation. If you don't know what a Rocket Money is, it's a subscription service. I think you pay $14 or maybe $15, it might have been more now, to basically give it access to all your bank account, your credit card, your debit card. I think you can also give it to your investing accounts, your and other accounts, for it to track your spending habits. You could also do external loans. It could go your FICO scores, credit scores and stuff like that. But also, this is the big selling point in a lot of podcasts and YouTubers that I actually trust very much, but gotta hustle and get your money. And it could help you negotiate and cancel subscriptions. And to me, that's a very interesting argument, right? Because the assumption is that we are basically hands off from our finances and the things that we make money for as people that are working class. I assume we're all working class here. Nobody that is a billionaire is probably watching this video. So this is where my argument goes back to. The rise and the use of Rocket Money and apps like it seems like to be a symptom of financial insecurity. Essentially, it is this illusion, it is this argument that is stating that individuals can essentially take charge of their financial future, their financial insecurity that they're experiencing. I also think it exonerates systems and the lack of social safety nets that are available to us more and more, especially here in the United States. And then it also implicitly kind of talks about, especially with these advertisements and stuff by these YouTubers and podcasters, we are headed toward a subscription model world. I recently read Technofeudalism, and one of the things that the author talks about is the point of it all is that information extraction and information is essentially the new asset. All these companies, all these private companies are trying to have information that feels really useful. It's no longer about physical gold or silver or whatever the thing was. It's really about what is on the cloud and how much of it can I control. In the micro, I think it impacts the way we interact with our finances. It is also creating a distance between us and how much we check our bank account, how much we have control over our finances. it is assuming with Rocket Money, like even the ads are so wild because it is saying like I'm paying for Apple Music for 2 years and I didn't even know it. How can you not know for 2 years? I've forgotten maybe for 1 month or 2 months when I was really into subscription models, and right now I'm like maybe down to one. I think it is kind of creating this world of like we're all in subscription model and we need some sort of a mediator so that we are not so inconvenienced and overwhelmed. I don't know, it kind of feels a little condescending too. In surveillance capitalism, I think there is a lot of condensation. You are giving your purchase history to a private company. It does not sit well with me. Like I said, I did the free trial and for me it wasn't really useful because I check my bank account like every other day. Like every time I get paid, I do like my transfers to my savings and stuff like that, right? So I'm not the best customer for Rocket Money. What they want is someone who has completely checked off, someone who is an overconsumer in some way. In the argument arc that Shoshana puts in her essay, it is giving more access to these private companies, more time for them to extract our information or our data, because like I said, information is power. Information is what gives these companies an asset. It is also, promising us this thing of like convenience and automation, but at what cost? Again, the continual experimentation is also an interesting thing for me because kind of mapping the psychology and our behavior to kind of understand how we buy stuff, how we interact with stuff, and how much we like click buy now on Amazon or other websites for them to understand and for them to show us maybe more ads. Like I think there's been many tactics that these companies have used for them to get some sort of a monopoly over our attention. This is sort of like micro and like a little bit of larger issues, but the larger issue that I've been thinking about is that technofeudalism is sort of the end point. The need to pay subscription, the subscription model is so normalized that people can't even get on the same page with you when you say like, oh, I'm trying to like divest and get off from all these social media. People think it's quirky and cool, right? Like even when I talk about it, like when I talk about these videos, people are like, oh yeah, big tech bad. But it's almost like we're plugged into the matrix in a way that feels really sinister and uncomfortable. The lasting effects of surveillance capitalism, for us to be so overwhelmed by being working class that we put all these subscription services to release us from the inconveniences of life, and for us not to be so closely looking at our finances from garnish wages that we already receive that are so little that we can only do the essentials. So if we're able to do the fun subscription services like Apple Music, HBO or whatever, like what is it if I add a $14.99 type of app that could track and does the mediation for me? The lasting effect for me though, it is giving our autonomy and our information to a company that we have no relationships with, and we're outsourcing our safety to a level that feels really scary. That's why I don't have Rocket Money or apps like it. The thing about these companies is that they have created problems that were never problems 10 to 15 years ago, and they are selling us the solutions back. And that is, again, the beauty of surveillance capitalism. It works so well because it's being sold back to you. And now I have to get Aura or Rocket Money or like VPNs for me not to be robbed of my assets and my information that needs to be online, because I have banking apps, I have financial records online, but I don't want people to track me and to harm me in some way. There is almost this like promise of security and safety, but like, is there? I don't think so. There was this documentary called The Great Hack. It came out a while ago. I don't know, it might have been 2018. But the documentary was talking about how Facebook completely skewed the demographic data and extracted so much from their users by essentially swaying election results and election targeting advertisements and the way that conversations happened in their people's For You pages. That is quite literally violence. That is quite literally shaping narratives in front of us. And I feel like that is the lasting effect of surveillance capitalism. Yeah, it is so easy to have $14 to have a mediator app. Like, it's nothing. Like, for some people, $120 a year to pay for an app, that kind of catches like doubled subscriptions or like negotiates things for you. That's beautiful, that's great, but at what cost is something that I go back to. I don't know. This is something that wakes me up at 3 a.m. and I don't know if it does for you, but it is quite scary. But if you have Rocket money, maybe look a little bit closely to it, because is it actually being beneficial as you thought it would, or did you just get it because you have a YouTuber or a podcast that you really like, who kind of convinced you and had the great talking points? But yeah, those are my thoughts for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as always, and thanks for being here, and happy 2026. May this year be less extractive and automated, and our attention be as much as possible on the analog.